I'm very lucky today to have Matt Robinson in the studio, who's a filmmaker, and he's been covering the recent protests in London. He's here to share his experiences. Assalamu alaikum, thank you for joining us.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Can you tell me a bit about why you've decided to document these protests and if any experiences really stood out for you in the recent protests?
Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a filmmaker. I've had 20 odd years in mainstream film and TV as an editor, and most of my work the last 5 years has been in the humanitarian sector, going to Iraq, Yemen, Bangladesh, Palestine. And so when obviously, we see it all the time, we see the subjugation and oppression that the Palestinian citizens are under every day. And I've witnessed that firsthand. I haven't witnessed any violence, but I witnessed the oppression that they're under. So when obviously, and I've prayed in Al-Aqsa Mosque, I've prayed in the Dome of the Rock, and to see those worshippers being attacked during Ramadan with rubber bullets, with tear gas canisters, with batons, women, sisters praying, being attacked, it touched something in me that made me want to do whatever I could to support this cause. Now, as a humanitarian filmmaker, I'm not allowed to take sides. I have to be neutral, and I do that. But in this situation, there's being neutral and there's being silent when there's oppression and persecution, and I couldn't stay silent. So that's why I got involved.
Did you see anything in the recent protests that really stood out for you or made you appreciate what was happening?
Obviously, the number of people, there was between 180 to 200,000 people, possibly more. The cohesion of everybody. It was almost, it's a very serious situation, but it was almost a carnival atmosphere in the sense of everybody had come together. The cohesion was amazing. Everyone was there for one purpose, and that was to raise voices for the people of Palestine who don't have a voice generally.
What is the result that you hope to get from these protests?
Okay, so what would I like to see from these protests? I think from the spreading of vital information and awareness, that's one of the first things I'd want to see from these protests. Bring it to the attention of those people who generally would brush past it. Those people who just rely on other basic news outlets that haven't really highlighted what's been going on, especially within the UK. I think I'd like the government to take heed. I mean, I've signed petitions. I know hundreds of thousands of people have signed petitions to do with raising questions in Parliament about the incursions into Sheikh Jarrah, about the general conduct of the Israeli government, the oppression that they are inflicting on the Palestinian people. And I think that, as Jeremy Corbyn said, he said that he thinks in this last protest, these protests were instrumental in the bringing about of this ceasefire, because I've never seen this before. I've never seen the level of awareness, the level of voices, the level of people speaking out. And this is one of the amazing things about social media as well, the fact that it is now a platform people can put out what's going on when it happens. I mean, I'll give you an example. I think it was on Friday, just after Jummah. In fact, it was about 12:30 UK time, just before Jummah UK time. I was sent a link for TRT, another channel, and it was a live feed of the Israeli soldiers firing tear gas canisters, going in with batons and attacking worshippers, yet again, less than 12 hours after the ceasefire had come into effect. So I did a screen record and I shared that, and as a result, not just what I shared, but so many other people videoed it, put it online, and raised the awareness. And so, I mean, to bring it back to your question, I think the most important thing about these protests is raising the awareness, touching on people's humanity, because there are people that also stay silent, not mentioning any names, but some people that I have looked up to, actors, performers, absolute silence.
As a documentary filmmaker, how important is it to document these events and share images of what is going on?
I mean, it's absolutely vital. I mean, when you look at the media outlets within the UK, one or two are kind of okay, but the majority, they don't speak out, they don't show exactly what's happening, and there is a biased narrative generally from wherever that is pressured onto them, or wherever that comes from, there is a biased narrative. So it's very important for people to get out, even with their mobile phones. I mean, I'll give you an example of how I made this film. I've got all the kit. I've got my big cameras, I've got my gimbals, I've got the drone, I've got everything. But for this, I just took out a very cheap pocket camera, and I think with a built-in radio mic and a stick. And it just made it so accessible for me to go and talk to people, me to ask questions. I spoke to Jeremy Corbyn, I've spoken to Loki, I've spoken to the Palestinian ambassador, and I also approached another news outlet who refused to speak to me, and another news outlet who did speak to me. The point is that anybody can be a documentary filmmaker, in the sense of anybody can capture stuff, can capture the truth and can share it. And I think the more people that are doing this, and I've seen a lot of stuff on social media, people have posted from the marches, people are putting themselves in their films, they're asking questions to people, they're interviewing people. And this is so important, this is so important. And that's the beauty of social media now. It's made documentary filmmaking accessible to everybody.
Given all the different ways we can receive news nowadays, alternative news and mainstream news, is the whole picture of Palestine being shown?
As far as I'm aware, it is. But then again, I'm not looking at any IDF accounts. I'm not looking at any Israeli accounts. I'm not looking at any Israeli sympathetic accounts. I'm not looking at that. But what I am seeing in the mainstream news is mostly stories from people that have, one news outlet in particular. They're talking about the attacks in Gaza, mentions it, but then they talk about conflict. The narrative that is used is about conflict, rather than it's not a conflict. It's a massacre from one side to another. So I mean, as far as social media is concerned, the people that I follow, I see one side of it, but I think that's the truthful side of it.
During some of the protests, there's been anti-Semitic chants. What do you think about this?
I've filmed at every protest so far, and I've not seen any anti-Semitic chants. Obviously, I've watched all the footage back because I've edited the films. I've not seen or heard anything. However, I am aware that there has been some. Obviously, anti-Semitism, as with any form of racism, hate on religion or race, is unacceptable, completely unacceptable, and it completely undoes the good that we are doing as an ummah to protest about what is happening in Israel. Being critical of the Israeli government is very different to anti-Semitism.
Jazakallah khair for coming down to meet with us, and we look forward to seeing your documentation of these important events.
Thank you.